Let's talk Tobago.
Hello, and we are back for yet another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. This week we are coming to you from the best, yes, I said the best village in Tobago, Blackrock. It is my hometown and it is home to this beautiful fort, Fort Bennett. So at this time we're going to check out the lineup of stories for this week. I'm Davia Chambers and our program starts right now. So what do we have to share with you? Well, we tell you about the Commonwealth Youth Games 2023. We take you to Tema's 25th anniversary celebrations, and we'll tell you who won Tadco's Men Can Cook competition. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road.
A brown skin. Girl, I wanna wrap you and lift up your head and hold it up high.
Get your sporting gear ready because a major sporting event is coming to Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, Tobago will be a part of the action. The Commonwealth Youth Games will be hosted in this country from August 4th to 11th. And a local organizing committee came across to the island to tell us what we can expect.
Final preparations are moving at pace to host the 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games events in Tobago. The games run from August 4th to 11th. The Tobago House of Assembly has established a task force to assist the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee in organizing the event.
All of the first responding agencies and a number of volunteers, experienced and otherwise, who would lead the multiple teams that we have to put in place. You would imagine we'd have a medical team, transportation, hospitality, ceremonies, and the like, for the 4 disciplines and the closing ceremony of the entire games that will take place in Tobago.
Facilities are being prepped at 4 venues to host specific disciplines.
Blackrock for the construction of a beach sports venue, that will actually, post games, be able to handle a number of beach sports. The Shore Park football field where rugby will take place, the Shore Park Cultural Complex where netball will take place, and the beach and environs of Buku where the triathlon will take place.
Heightened security will be observed during the games, taglined Trinbago 2023.
We are really excited for the games in terms of participation in Tobago, because this allows showcasing what Tobago has to offer, not only in terms of venues, but leaving a legacy where Blackrock is concerned.
We certainly want to make sure that we follow all the rules and see the successful execution of the games, all the attendant matters. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that those things are in place.
More than 1,000 athletes from 72 countries have registered so far for the games. Recruitment of volunteers continues, with several events to be staged right here in Tobago. Visit commonwealthsports.com for more details. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
You know, we really can't stop a natural disaster, but our first approach is usually to minimize the impact. Omidara Mills is going to tell us now about some new flood early warning systems that have been installed.
Worrying scenes of last year's flooding in Scarborough and environs. This year, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, Tema, is staying a step ahead with 2 new community flood early warning systems at Bacalet River and Crooks River. They were funded by the European Union for humanitarian aid and implemented by the United Nations Development Programme.
These two stream gorges were part of a two-year project started in 2021, which forms an important part of UNDP's SIDS offer, Small Island Development States, which aims to build resilient development pathways in areas such as climate action, blue economy, and digitization.
This action responds to the priority of DG ECHO to strengthen national capacities to forecast man-made and natural hazards by investing on early warning systems and preparedness. The scope is to provide to communities and government with earlier and more accurate information, so to allow the implementation of faster and earlier anticipatory action protocols before a disaster strikes.
It will give us greater chance and availability to actually anticipate, prepare, and respond more effectively, especially in Scarborough, which, for those who remember, when it came the last time when you're watching by Crooks River where water cleared the banks, the port had to shut down operations, vehicles stuck, businesses, Scotiabank, all of them, some relocated, some could not start back up their business. So what we have to do now that we have this piece of equipment, not only maintain it properly, but also use it to the max.
With these two systems, we will be able to improve on the timeliness of our response. This will certainly have an impact on schools, on traffic management, on communities and people being able to safeguard assets and homes.
The flood early warning systems will support data collection so that emergency responders can better assess the need for evacuation. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Now, this fort was established by the Dutch between 1628 and 1636, a pretty long time ago, right? Obviously. But what was also established a long time ago is the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, or Tema. Tema recently celebrated its 25th anniversary. So at this time, Ryan McCool will tell us exactly how the department celebrated.
Today we gather to honor and recognize the hard work, dedication, and unwavering commitment of the men and women who have been instrumental in shaping this organization into what it is today. Over the past 25 years, it would have been grown from strength to strength, coordinating the essential services to the people of Tobago.
I just want to recognize some of the agencies, who have been with us over the years. I call them very, very important and strong affiliates. Tema is just not what came out of the Executive Council that established the body of people that are now working. Tema goes beyond that. It speaks to the partners. It's like a confluence of two great streams that influence what disaster management looks like in Tobago, the disaster management systems that fits into the national disaster mechanism.
As we celebrate the silver anniversary of this Diamond Standard Award-winning agency, we encourage the administration to see Tema not just as a department of the OCS, but as an institution that is of the result of over 60 years of effort that brings you to what you see here today.
Tema in times of pandemic has played a pivotal role in our response to those pandemic. And Tema continue to respond 365 days of the year, 24 hours of the day. My congratulations to the Tema family on making it to a quarter of a century. This is indeed an admirable feat, and I am confident that the best of Tema is yet to come.
There's an interesting story in the Bible of when the disciples faced the storm at sea. It was at 25 furlongs that they spotted Jesus coming to their rescue on the water to assure them that they will be safe. When he said to them, "Be not afraid." 25. All of you hard-working staff, I want, on behalf of the island of Tobago, to say thank you. Thank you for your service.
We have to take a break right now, but after these messages, we return with more stories. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When the quarantine thing done and everybody touch road.
A brown skin. Girl, I wanna wrap you up. Lift up your head and hold it up high.
If you're looking to reset and relax, then Fort Bennett is a great location. So now I'm going to tell you about a Men Can Cook competition, and we all know Tobago men can cook. Well, 30 talents took part in the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company, or TADCO, Men Can Cook competition. Let's see who is really the best of the best.
We had used the calabash and plated our soup with callaloo soup. The calabash also helps to infuse other flavors so that the dish was really excellent. For the upscale dish, we did a cassava au gratin that was plated in a nice ramekin. Also, we did a very beautiful, lovely rainbow vegetables, and we had also grilled chicken with fish that was wrapped with banana leaf and seasoned really nicely and put in the oven to bake off.
30 men donned their aprons to vie for the TADCO Men Can Cook title, but it was the engine room who earned the top spot with 294 points. Team Settlements was second with 255 points and a special prize for the most hygienic team, while Sweet Hand Crew Glen Road finished third with 253 points. It was a day of good vibes and light-hearted fun, which brought out supporters, families and visitors to the Shore Park Food Hub.
I think it's a very good initiative on the part of TADCO. I appreciate it very much because it showcases what the men can do, and I always say men can cook because my husband is the cook in our home. He's the main cook.
We need more of this in Tobago. Tobago men, we are known for cooking good food, sweet hand food. I'm not saying the women cannot cook, them time will come. But I mean, men are normally known to cook food for harvest and big sessions and things, right? So putting this together, for me, is a very great experience for the men in Tobago.
I think it's a great initiative. I think that more of it is actually warranted on the island because men can really cook. That's the truth. My husband is a chef. I enjoy his meals. It's also a good opportunity for young boys to look into or go into the culinary field.
I am quite happy with the turnout. I'm quite happy about the amount of men that are here actually. This definitely will foster growth in terms of communities and building relationships, especially among fathers and sons and stuff like that.
The event is also intended to showcase TADCO's products and promote the food hub as a viable venue for vendors and patrons. Look out for more exciting cooking challenges from the Tobago Agribusiness Development Company. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Preservation of culture is quite important, so we're going to leave Fort Bennett at this moment to head right across the street to Corland Bush Race. We're going to take you to the Williams family so you can see their Good Friday tradition.
It's a historical tradition for the Williams family of Black Rock to host a traditional breakfast on Good Friday every year. The day starts at 6 a.m. with the rising of the sun and this custom.
You see, long ago now, when fowl lay, and they could have used the egg because they never used to put egg in fridge and them thing they said the thing that sees the thing that it wouldn't rise. So that is why they say you must get a fresh egg like if the fowl lay day before yesterday. But don't put it in the fridge. And then when you're ready for use it, but make sure 6 o'clock when the sun rising, and it thing the egg, it fast as the sun coming up, that coming up too. And use the white alone of the egg. If the yellow go inside there, it would not raise. It does be very good. You're seeing your danger. If you're going to bring a wedding, you're going to bring a church, you're going to bring you coming out from the church with the wedding, it will give you down to a funeral. All like that. Right? So that is why they say many people are glad to see that. Imagine a white lady from America call me and ask me if I doing anything today.
Long time you didn't get stove, so that was the stove. You gotta get the fire, blow the fire on top. That's how they used to cook long time. You didn't get no stove and oven, so they never find a way. 3 stone they call it. Me just change it to the blocks.
It was excellent. The food was amazing. I got cocoa, and the nice thing about the tea was there was this oil film on the top, which to me was unique and it was real nice.
The Williams family continues to pass the tradition down from generation to generation to ensure that the culture is preserved. I'm Megan Wallace for Let's Talk Tobago.
And that's a wrap. That's how we bring this week's edition of Let's Talk Tobago to a close. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Davia Chambers. On behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, do have a safe and enjoyable week. Remember to like our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. See you next week.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning. Good morning, morning. Good morning, morning.
Good morning, and welcome to the Tobago Updates Youth Morning Show, coming to you live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Now, for those of you joining us as you take your morning breakfast, your morning meditation, and for even those of you tuning in on the radio, thank you so much for choosing Tobago Updates to start your morning on the right note. Now, I'm your host, Luke Trim, and very soon I'll be joined by Kaylee Lewis. And viewers, today is the 26th of April, and once again, our live shot this morning is sponsored by Max Bakery. So, Kaylee, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Luke. Good morning, Tobago. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. Luke, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. I woke up in good spirits. How about you?
I'm okay as well, not too bad. We didn't have as much rain this morning as we had yesterday, so it's going good so far.
And Kaylee, what's been happening in the Tobago space thus far? Anything we've observed within the past days?
Well, just recently we had the Tobago Jazz experience.
And how was that for you, Kaylee? Because I know you were there front and center.
It was quite an experience. I definitely enjoyed it. I don't know why you didn't come.
Well, next time I'll definitely be there, Kaylee. And it's really good to see the turnout that we had for jazz. It was well attended, so we really, really appreciate that. We have our Trinidadians coming up, and I saw a bit of tourists enjoying the mix also. So all in all, I think the jazz was a successful event. So Kaylee, I think this is the time where we give you your time to shine. So viewers, at this moment we'll be heading over to news in 90 seconds with Kaylee Lewis.
Thank you, Luke, and here is your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday, 26 April 2023. $1.3 million in brand new cataract equipment was handed over to the Roxborough Hospital yesterday by the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. The phaco machine uses the latest technology platform and maintains the stability of the eye while the surgeon is operating. The microscope, however, allows the surgeon to see what he is doing using LED lighting for better visualization of the eye. The Roxborough Hospital already performed over 500 cataract surgeries over the last 3 months, and the phaco machine will aid the hospital in efficiently clearing 700 outstanding cataract surgeries. Adverse weather conditions caused some damage yesterday. According to Tema, there was a landslide in Sherburne that partially damaged the house. In another incident, a tree fell on a power line in Lescatu, knocking out electricity for a short time. Meanwhile, the strip of road in front of the Cocoa Reef Hotel flooded. The mechanism designed to solve the problem was unable to function due to debris around the pump. However, officers from the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development cleared the debris and the water subsided. The adverse weather conditions are expected to continue until 10 a.m. today. And nationally, after receiving approval from the Ministry of Education, salary negotiations with lecturers at the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus can now begin. Lecturers protested several times over the last few weeks and withheld examination papers from students calling for wage negotiations. Representatives of the West Indies group of university teachers expressed their satisfaction with the Ministry of Education's commitment to negotiate and promise that students will not experience any more disruptions. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you very much, Kaylee, for that read of the news. And I think I would like to note the cataract machine that they would have brought, because I know a lot of elderly people, they suffer with cataract. We see them in the hospital, especially those diabetic patients. So it's really good to see that they have some type of alleviation when it comes to their surgeries, Kaylee. How do you feel about that? Because I know you have a few elderlies in your family.
Well, I don't have any persons in my family that suffer with this kind of thing. But any kind of advancement in technology in the Tobago space is always appreciated.
It is, Kaylee. So we're thankful for that. So now we're going to be heading over to the birthdays, Kaylee. And up first on our screen, we are sending out a happy birthday to Miss Afia Gift. Happy birthday to you, and I hope you enjoy your day today. Who's next, Kaylee?
Next on the list, we have Kinder Brooms Balboda. Happy birthday to you, Kinder, coming from the Tobago Updates family.
Okay, and next we are sending out a huge happy anniversary, 36th happy anniversary to Uncle Ray and Auntie Liz from the entire Richardson family with love and continued blessings for many years to come. And we have to send a huge shout out to our sponsor. We are seeing KFC is one of our sponsors now, Kaylee. And I know you always buy KFC, Gonna.
Well, of course, I mean, KFC is a sponsor, but I don't have any KFC to eat this morning. How do you feel about that, Luke?
I feel probably they will get us something. They will get us probably a 2-piece, nothing too extravagant.
In the making. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I feel like I could do with some popcorn chicken or zinger.
Yes, Kaylee. So, viewers, this morning we have an exciting segment for you. First, we will be bringing on the Honorable Lawrence Hislop. He's a senator in Trinidad and Tobago, as we speak about what's been happening in the political space. Then we'll be switching over to see some Tobago Jazz highlights, and that was covered by Kaylee Lewis. So don't go anywhere. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be heading over to Tobago in focus at the moment.
World Consumer Rights Day theme for 2023 is Empowering Consumers Through Clean Energy Transition. The theme aims to focus on the role of consumers to push for a faster, clean energy transition. Larger countries have already begun doing so and are currently asking that smaller countries and islands do away with carbon energy.
The more developed countries can afford to do that because they would have established themselves, established the economy, have the standard of living so high based on the carbon energy that they would have used for production for years. Now, the smaller countries like ourselves who are in third world status, we are now trying to establish ourselves, and our access is carbon energy. So what do we do?
Trinidad and Tobago's current access is carbon energy. However, consumers can practice conservation by other means.
When you're not using a light, you turn it off. Right. Instead of driving to go certain places, you can walk or you can cycle. So those are what we are really pushing at Consumer Affairs, because for us to tell consumers to cut down on carbon energy, tell the country to cut down on carbon energy, we might be shooting ourselves in the foot.
The Consumer Affairs Division also deals with consumers' rights and responsibilities, the importance of knowing and exercising your right.
Consumers, you know your rights. We have been doing pretty good in Tobago. I must say between the last 5 to 10 years, consumers are quite aware of their rights, like your right to redress, your right to choice, your right to choose. Those are good. Your right to consumer education. All those are rights that we should have as consumers. We should be practicing. But what consumers are not doing properly is to adhere to your responsibilities.
If consumers do not practice their responsibilities, certain rights can become defunct. Consumers have a right to choose, but many do not understand that they have a responsibility to shop around and get information regarding products before purchasing.
All right, viewers, welcome back here to the Tobago of this Youth Morning Show. Now, the politics suite is a slang we oftentimes hear during election season. However, we've been hearing that slang, yet we are not in election mode. Joining us this morning to speak on some of the events that have unraveled during the past week is none other than the son of the soil, the Honorable Lawrence Hislop, a senator in Trinidad and Tobago. So good morning to you, Mr. Hislop. How are you doing?
Morning, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yes, and it's a pleasure to have you here this morning on the Youth Show.
Thank you.
So in the year 1980, the Tobago House of Assembly was re-established to rectify some of the discrepancies in the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago. But in the past week, we've been noticing somewhat of a bickering between the two. So before we get into this morning's conversation, I just want to ask for your general perspective on what we've been seeing, hearing, and witnessing in the political space.
Well, first of all, let me say good morning to Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and the wider world who may be tuned in. I like the word. I don't like the word bickering, because I don't think there is bickering. I think politics is about positioning, is about service, or it should be about service first. And so, when you have a challenge, when you have a situation where two opposing parties in our structure is in governance, one in Tobago and one in Trinidad, things may not always go as smoothly as you would like it to. There will always be, even in common relationships, you always find the challenge that, as the old people say, teeth and tongue will meet at times. But it's how you navigate around those situations that makes the difference. And what's happening in Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago is in some regard unfortunate, because I honestly don't see the need for any quote-unquote bickering. But some powers that be think that it is necessary for them to bicker, but I don't see the need for the bickering.
Okay, great. Now the title for today's segment, Mr. Hislop, is Mind Your Business. And that came from a campaign video that would have resurfaced on social media with the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley. And it was reposted by the Chief Secretary, that's Mr. Fali Augustine, on his personal Facebook page. So we are seeing it up here on the screen now. And for those of you who may be confused as to what the video is saying, we're going to play the video and then we'll get into the question on the matter.
I am not involved in your business. As Prime Minister, I stay out of Tobago's business. The law keeps me out. I have a responsibility as head of the cabinet, and then I am out of your business. Tobago's business is run at the administrative level by the Tobago House of Assembly. It is the only place in this country where I am Prime Minister where there is an executive body running the affairs of that part of the country, and you all better understand that.
Now, the interesting thing about this video, more specifically what the Chief Secretary would have reposted, is that we live in Trinidad and Tobago, and a lot of people are saying, we know Dr. Rowley and we know him to be a person. When it comes to his interaction and exchanges with people, it's not really on the respectful spectrum. People may see the way he deals with people as quote-unquote disrespectful. So now we find ourselves in a do-so, don't-like-so situation, and the question now people are asking is, why is it now that the Chief Secretary is being crucified for something that, Dr. Rowley himself is oftentimes excused for?
Well, I don't think it's excused. And if, as you played the video, you have to play the video in context. Because what the Chief Secretary and his friends have done is to take out a particular line and use it out of context. Because I was sitting at that meeting. That meeting was actually during the election in Mason meeting. And what the point the Prime Minister was making is that when it comes to the administration of Tobago, there are constraints legally. And so he says in the governance of Tobago, in the administration of Tobago, the law does not allow the Prime Minister to interfere in the governance of Tobago, right? But that does not negate the fact that the Prime Minister is still the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And so he has the authority given to him by the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago to speak on matters as it relates or speak on matters that affect Tobago. And so for persons to say, or as the Chief Secretary did, mind your damn business, that is being disrespectful in the context of the Prime Minister speaking on matters that are treating. Because listen, I'm a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not a citizen of Tobago. I reside in Tobago. And every one of us who reside in Tobago, what do our ID cards and passports and so on say? You are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. And so whether you like the Prime Minister or not, when he stands up to speak, he speaks on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago because he's the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. The governance construct of the THA and the central government or the construct of the THA doesn't allow him to get involved in the day-to-day operations of the governance of the island of Tobago. But at the end of the day, when Dr. Rowley steps on our platform, when he steps out of Trinidad and Tobago, who does he represent?
Trinidad.
You may not like him, you may not have voted for him, but at the end of the day, he is the person tasked with the responsibility to represent Trinidad and Tobago.
Great, Senator. And you would have said that he speaks on issues affecting both Trinidad and Tobago, and he would have done a press release, a really long, nicely structured press release, and then we saw again that it was being misconstrued in a manner of speaking. And then the question came up now in the Tobago spaces, did we vote for a party or did we vote for people? Because we are now in a circumstance where the independent representatives, they were members of the PDP, they would have campaigned on issues affecting Tobago, and then some were removed, and then the other resigned themselves from the party and now they were independents. But they formed a new political party, and the question now is, with the formation of the new political party, the mandate is now coming into play. Are they going to use the old mandate? I think Max James would have said that the mandates still can be used because it's still the same people. They did not, quote-unquote, change. Farley is still Farley, the independents are still the independents. But from a political perspective, this is a new party. They no longer identify as the PDP. So the question now is that the main reason why a fresh election may have to be called? Because they obviously can't use the mandate they used when they were under the PDP banner.
Let's take it from this perspective. And I'm not here to quote sections of acts and constitutions. We're dealing with direct talk. Let's take it from this perspective, from a governance perspective. You know, if this happened on the national level, this would have been considered political instability. If this happened from the national government, let's say, for instance, the PNM was voted into office in Trinidad, in Trinidad and Tobago. And not even a year into the term of office. Now, we understand that the law is different as it relates to what governs the THA and what governs the parliament, right? But let's just put that aside for 1 minute. If this happened in Trinidad, it would be considered political instability. And when you have political instability within a country, how do you think your trading partners and your allies see you?
Okay.
They see you as unstable. They see you as a people who can't manage. And so when you take that into the context of what is happening in Tobago, granted that the THA Act allows for it, and truth be told, it's a unique perspective of governance in the world. But something like this doesn't augur well for governance. Your system, you look unstable, your governance structure looks unstable, and the business entities within your governance space, they don't take you seriously. And so investment is stymied. Because if we can't trust, or if we see instability in the political element of a country, of an island, then business is stymied because people are afraid to invest. Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Because that's what we faced with. Whether the independents remain in the executive council, we don't know what's going to happen in the morning. Because the truth be told, they won the election. Because you could go into the records of the EBC. What do the records say? The records say that Fali Augustine, Zia Hackett won the election under what? PDP. Under a PDP ticket. And so if you came to the people under the banner of the PDP, these people did not campaign individually. And let me say to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, the PNM is not afraid of elections. From its inception, the PNM has contested every election and every seat that has been held in this country. And so it's not about the PNM being afraid of elections. Because if an election is called tomorrow, the PNM will go back to the polls tomorrow. And if the people give, whoever the people gives the mandate, the PNM will do what it has to do. Whether it is in government or in opposition. And so the issue here is about the stability of the governance of an island.
Okay, and you would have mentioned that, you know, the government structure that we are seeing in Tobago now is somewhat of an unstable nature. And some political analysts had some ways to describe the governance we are seeing here in Tobago, and they would have used the word political mediocrity. So that is described, we put it up on the screen for those viewing. You know, political mediocrity, it is described as engaging in populism. That is a political stance that emphasizes the idea of the people and often juxtapose this group against the quote-unquote elite, rather than standing up for principles, governing and solving problems. And this political mediocrity is reinforced by mediocracy. That is a situation in which the media dominates or controls the populace. This is in terms of voting. So my question to you, Senator, is that based on the comments the analysts would have made, do you think that we are seeing that type of governance here in Tobago now?
Well, I could ask you the question. You tell me. Because coming from, I know you're the host, but I think we've seen worse than that.
Okay.
I think we're seeing governance that is falling apart. People are holding on to governance because a law allows them to, and not because they have a clear mandate from the people. Because you look, how do you govern? You govern with a mandate. And if you are to be taken, and I know persons took this statement and blew it out of context, but Dr. Rowley said if you are to be taken seriously. But we're not even talking about the central government taking you seriously. I just spoke about business people. Because no businessman worth his salt could be comfortable with what's happening in Tobago. Because you never know if we're coming or going, and no businessman who's worth his salt, who's been profitable, could be happy with a system that doesn't know whether it's coming or going.
Okay. And you would have noted that Mr. Rowley's statements have been blown out of proportion once again. And, you know, he would have said to call the election. These are three words we've been hearing in both Trinidad and Tobago. Call the elections. We're hearing it at a local government level. We're hearing it in general elections. And most notably, we heard it from Dr. Rowley in terms of calling the THA elections. But people are somewhat confused as to why he's saying call the elections when the local elections haven't even been called. So do you think it's somewhat hypocritical for Dr. Rowley to instruct or somewhat suggest that, you know, the THA call the election while he still has, you know, elections that are in limbo in Trinidad?
I don't see elections in Trinidad as being in limbo. There are legal guidelines for calling the election in Trinidad, and the election will be called. I don't think. Look at Dr. Rowley's record since he's been Prime Minister. And I don't think anybody could say that Dr. Rowley is afraid to call an election.
Okay.
I think Dr. Rowley relishes fighting elections. I think he enjoys fighting elections, as all politicians do. So there isn't an issue about him calling elections in Trinidad. So this is what I want to see. I want to see when he does call a local government election, which he will call. Because there are legal guidelines to when it is to be called. When he calls the local government election, then what leg do our friends in Tobago have to stand on to say, well, call the election in Trinidad before you call for elections in Tobago? You see, yes, the person who has the authority to trigger elections in Tobago is the Chief Secretary. That's a given, right? We understand that. But the PNM has the right to call for elections, because the PNM is standing on a position of morality as it deals with the governance. The same way when things happen in Trinidad and Tobago, the opposition calls for elections. The opposition was in the Senate yesterday. The opposition is calling for elections every day, all right? And so Dr. Rowley will call the elections in Trinidad within the legal framework of when elections are to be called. And they will be called, they will be contested.
And Senator Hazelop, that brings another question we hear on the ground in terms of morality. You know, people will view it as, okay, the PNM was in power in Tobago for 21 years. They would have apparently failed on the job. That's why the Tobago people would have voted for something different. So people will ask the question, you know, what right, what moral ground does the PNM has to even, you know, try to provoke an election, try to call an election? What moral ground does the PNM have to, you know, say these things and, you know, call an election?
Here's about 15,000 people that voted for the PNM, right?
Okay.
And so that gives the PNM right there the moral authority to call for elections.
Okay, the numbers.
The people who support the PNM, the people who voted for the PNM. And so, and I hear this narrative, this narrative has been beaten from here to whenever, about the 21 years in office. The reality is that the people of Tobago voted back in the PNM consecutively. That's why the PNM governed for 21 years. We got to a point where the people said, we need a change. And that's fair. That's what democracy is about. And so the PNM fought the election, lost the election, and went into opposition. We are no strangers to opposition. Because the PNM has been here from the birth of this country and will continue to be here, and has proven over the years that we are the best option. Because whenever there is a falling out, a disagreement with the PNM, now you vote out the PNM. What happens after that? After the 5-year term of a government that came in, that replaced the PNM, what happens?
Senator, and I think would have been a question more fitting to ask the Prime Minister himself. But the question is now, explain the legal time that has passed and it was delayed for the local election. And they are saying that, a complaint oftentimes was raised by the UNC if the time has quote-unquote passed for the local election.
No. Remember that there is local government reform that was passed. What transpired is that part of that legislation was proclaimed, which allowed for an additional year, right? Because within that legislation, the local government reform now moves the term to 4 years, and so that triggered that aspect of it. So it's not that the Prime Minister isn't breaking the law because that matter was challenged in court and it failed in court, because the legislation was partially proclaimed to allow for other frameworks to be built out within the local government construct, and so it allowed for this additional period. But when the time, listen, let's just wait and see. The elections will be called, the elections will be contested, and the government is not breaking the law with regards to local government.
Okay, so Senator, you're on the youth show, and we need to give that youthful perspective in terms of when it comes to Tobago's autonomy. And achieving an autonomous Tobago is not a newly debated topic. It's a topic that has been debated for a while. I remember, I think it was in 2015, the then Chief Secretary, I think, was over in London. He would have taken a team to Trinidad. They would have visited Kamala Persad-Bissessar. She was in power at that time, to discuss the autonomy bill, and they would have said that the central government wasn't so enthusiastic about it. But when you look at autonomy, I think from my perspective is that Tobago will have its own resources, socially, financially also. And you would have said that business investors, who are probably the people who could help achieve this, they are looking on and seeing what is happening in Tobago in terms of the political climate. So my question is, with all that's been happening and all that's been going on, do you still think that Tobago's autonomy can still be achieved?
That's a loaded question. I believe that Tobago's autonomy can be achieved. I would like Tobago's autonomy to be achieved. It's unfortunate that we did not allow that to take place with the legislation that is still in committee stage in the Parliament. And interestingly, up to yesterday, I was speaking to a senior public servant who would have worked on that piece of legislation and the work that went into it. And the public servant was confident that Tobago would have been better off with that piece of legislation. And it's unfortunate that persons with voices in Tobago didn't say to the opposition, we're going to support this. Because legislations are living and breathing entities. I don't think you could have a perfect legislation. There is always going to be gray areas and ambiguities within legislation. And so what happens is that, and especially when you allow the legislation to go through the committee stage, that's where you have significant amendments and meaningful amendments taking place. I tell you, if that had gone to the Senate, and you had the input of the independent senators, you would find that you would have additional amendments that would make the legislation more robust, that would make the legislation more meaningful. But what I'm saying is that we missed an opportunity. We missed an opportunity, you know, and there's so many opportunities that we would have missed in Tobago because of those who shout the loudest. And the truth is, those who shout the loudest don't always talk what makes sense. And so we had shouting, especially, you know, I saw recently the announcement by St. Vincent and the Grenadines about the sandals on the beaches. And other islands could see the benefit of it, but we missed an opportunity there. And so we worry about our tourism numbers, and people may say, well, sandals wasn't the panacea for it, but it was an element that could have brought value to our tourism product. And so I believe we could still get our autonomy. I believe we still deserve our autonomy, or greater autonomy. But could you imagine us having greater autonomy with what's taking place in Tobago right now? Because with that level of power, with what the present administration is engaging in, I don't know what would have happened to Tobago. Because you have secretaries talking about the Tobago government, and even commentators are talking about the Tobago government. But within that legislation, Tobago was going to be given its Tobago Island government. That is what the THA was going to move from. And then on top of that, it would have been enshrined in the Constitution. Because as it stands now, it takes a simple majority to dissolve the THA. How powerful is that entity if the National Parliament could just wake up one morning and say, well, we're dissolving the THA? And a simple majority could vote and dissolve the THA. I know it's going to cause riot in Tobago, and I would not support that. But the reality is, that's where we are as a THA. And the present central government was willing to move us from that to something greater. And the noises in Tobago said that's not what we want. And so the opposition just quickly jumped on that and started to suffocate the process.
Okay, Senator, I never looked at it from that perspective, to be honest. And the noises, you know, we are seeing the noises, you know, Trinidad, Tobago, and we're noticing somewhat of a Trinidad versus Tobago happening or can happen. What do you think that this back and forth between the two islands, how is that going to affect us socially? I know most of our tourism, the Trinidadians, they come over, they really hate Tobago in tourism. So these noises, how do you think it's going to affect the stability of the relationship between the two islands?
I don't want to forecast anything, but it is not, the conversation is not a good conversation. This Trinidad versus Tobago conversation is not a good conversation. You look around the world and you're seeing territories and countries seeking to come together, seeking to build alliances, and we want to be fighting each other. 4 million people want to fight each other and talk about why the water belongs to us and all of this. And let's take into consideration if every community in Trinidad that contributed to the national economy, let's just say Point 14 said it, that we want everything that comes from Atlantic energy. Do you think we would have gotten some of the things that we have in Tobago? If Couva, Point Lisa's area, says all the companies that reside in the Point Lisa's estate, all those taxes must stay in Trinidad, must stay in Couva, how does that affect the national development? I'm a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm a Trinbagonian. I was born here. I love Tobago with my all. But I think the rhetoric of Trinidad versus Tobago needs to stop. What we need to really and truly have a conversation about is how are we seen as equal partners. And I think the Tobago Autonomy Bill was taking us in that direction. You know, the thing about it is that if we separate, because I hear people talking about secession. If we separate, do you know who benefits out of that secession? Not Tobago, you know. Not Trinidad and Tobago, you know. Barbados benefits out of that secession.
Okay.
We end up losing. And we may think that we will be better off. But there needs to be a conversation amongst our people. Not the politicians, you know. Because sometimes the politicians just throw all kind of mess in the mix. But our people, the regular citizen on the ground, how do you feel about your relationship how do you feel as it relates to your citizenship of Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay.
I'm about bringing us into equal partnership. I'm not about secession.
But Max James would have described himself as a secessionist, and he would have advocated ruthlessly for the Tobago autonomy. So what are your thoughts on that entire interview? Because he would have advocated ruthlessly that, listen, Tobago, you know, they need to cut away from Trinidad. What were your thoughts on that interview?
That's Max James' view. I don't share his view. We are gone past that 90s style of politics. I think we need to recognize that the world is moving towards amalgamation. The world is moving towards better relationships.
Okay.
Why should we be carrying on a conversation? And what made it worse is the nonsense talk about him wanting to send a picture of Tobago and Dr. Rowley Sheep Farm. Max James has an issue with Dr. Rowley Sheep Farm. And that is the level of small-mindedness, and I'm not going to use any big words. That's the level of small-mindedness that comes from commentators in Tobago. That because the Prime Minister made a comment, you're talking about when the man dies and all of that kind of nonsense. Why we even get in there? We should be talking about strengthening relationships and making sure that our relation will carry on. And as a senior public servant said to me yesterday, if we decide on secession, the United Nations has to get involved on all of those kind of things, because we now become a small island state and all the ramifications that goes with that. And we end up losing. We are better off when we stand together. And this fight, you know, I speak to some I was on a trip recently, having a conversation with some CARICOM members, and they're trying to figure out why all of this contention in Trinidad? Why are we fighting amongst ourselves? And this is not me. So if our CARICOM neighbors are wondering why we fighting between Trinidad and Tobago, why should we continue to?
Oh wow, Senator, it's really good to note that perspective, because when you look from a youthful perspective again, this year in January we would have had CYLS, that's a Caribbean, where different youth leaders from the Caribbean meet up, and we would have known of each other separately, you know, from social media. And then we joined up and we realized we were able to network, we were able to build relationships, and we were able to push our youth agenda in a more effective way. So when you talk about, you know, now is not the time to divide, you know, we understand that perspective because we've seen it right here in the youth space, we've seen it right here with our youth leaders. So the question now is, as a senator, what do you pose to do differently? What can the PNM do differently? What are the thoughts?
I think conversation is always conversation into action and meaningful conversation. I honestly believe that Tobago needs to do a lot of introspection, and we need to ask ourselves how do we benefit out of a union with our sister Trinidad? What are the pros and the cons? How do we have that conversation that allows us to because we've benefited, you know, and if Tobagonians are honest with themselves, we have benefited. We've benefited out of the union. And
how have we benefited? People, come on. You know, we have to ask the question how. We just can't say you benefited. How have we benefited?
So we talk about simple things like and I wouldn't even say simple because it's significant capital expenditure. I remember the days of running on the Panorama and the MV Tobago. Remember when I was in Trinidad studying that was my modus operandi every weekend. And because of our partnership, of our relationship, of our unitary state construct with Trinidad, we were able to see I was able to see our inter-island ferry service move from there to where it is. Students who have been able to access gate and all of these kinds of things. Some of the same people that are making noise have benefited from direct P&M policy, direct policy, because we are a unitary state. And because we are together, it gives us that economies of scale in terms of value for money and so on. I am not saying that the arrangement is perfect. There are several things that need to be sorted out that have not been sorted out, and several governments have been in place to do that. You know, we talk about the P&M not being the ones to give autonomy. We had a great leader in our Robinson who had a constitutional majority. The TOP was part of a construct under the People's Partnership that had a constitutional majority, that had the ability at that time to give Tobago complete autonomy. And it didn't happen. And it came to, the P&M Dr. Rowley brought these bills to the floor of the Parliament. And we made noise about it and struck it down, right? All of the infrastructure works that have taken place, infrastructure, people development, social development that has taken place on this island, that every resident of Tobago has benefited from, has done that because we are Trinidad and Tobago. Everything that we've benefited from.
Okay, so
it's not perfect, but if we really see the glass half full instead of half empty, and the residents of Tobago who have benefited from direct government intervention would see that those benefits that they have accrued are because we are Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, Senator. Really good perspective with, maintaining that relationship, but time is of the essence. So closing now, what are some words you would like to leave to the Tobagoans here to, just wrap things up nicely?
Now, for me, I want us to have meaningful conversations. I think the political space is tired of the arguments. We need to have meaningful conversations that redound to the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago in its nuclei. We need those sort of conversations. We don't need the back and forth and the arguments and take out your officers from Tobago. The reality is that the licensing officers are paid by the ministry.
And on that topic of the licensing officers, it brings me to question what different policies, if any, it has between the Trinidad licensing and Tobago licensing. Are there any differences?
It's the same policy.
Okay.
The only difference is that the administrative aspect of the licensing office is managed by the THA. But who pays the licensing officers, even those based in Tobago?
Okay.
The salaries of those officers are paid by the ministry. What I could if conversation is to be had, then let there be meaningful conversation. We ought not to be fighting. Let's not fight amongst each other.
Okay, Senator. So I'd like to really thank you for joining us here this morning on the Tobago Updates Youth Morning Show. Some people are even questioning, are you even going to be a prospective candidate for Tobago East? I think it's too early to ask, but people are wondering, are you going to be a prospective candidate?
I'm a senator in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, great.
Right? The only person who holds the future is God. And we leave that right there.
All right, Senator. So thank you once again for joining us here on the Youth Show. Throughout the interview, there were many times I wanted to interject, but I always tell management, if they want us to have that conversation, let's have a debate. I don't think that type of conversation is fitting
No,
for an interview.
you could have interjected, but I don't have a problem with
Okay, well, next time I'll know to, be ruthless with the interview.
No problem.
I want to thank you once again, Senator, for joining us this morning, for sharing your perspective on what's been happening in the political space. So, viewers, that was Senator the Honorable Lawrence Hislop. Don't go anywhere yet. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back to highlight what happened over the Jazz weekend.
Sign up, save, and win every day with Digicel Plus. You could win a tablet or a TV every single day. Just sign up for Digicel Plus and like yourself. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store to sign up now. Promotion ends May 19th and is approved by the NLCB.
Yes, be careful.
Honey, I feel I'm going to start to cook, yes, because these children are hungry now, right? Okay.
Oh, shucks. Oh. These plugs, oh my gosh.
Hey, Richard, hey, come from there. Come from there.
What's going on in here?
Oh God, I should have buy exhibition, boy.
What would you do if this happened to you? Dial 990 in case of fire emergencies and always have a serviceable fire extinguisher ready and available at all times.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your nice car get damaged bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard, I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard, I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you. Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
Welcome to Limage Parfait Day Spa, your urban oasis and wellness center. Our services includes massages, treatments, facials, pedicures, weight management, detox programs, and much more. Call us today at 624-1452 or 720-7474. Trinidad locations and Bonacore, Tobago at 273-7772. Let us treat you like the VIP you are.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Youth Morning Show. Now, viewers, if you were there, if you wasn't there, the Tobago Jazz Festival seemed to be one that was for this season. Now, our co-host, Kaylee Lewis, she was on the ground, and thankfully we'll be seeing some interviews to see the vibe and see what happened during the Jazz Festival. So, let's take a look.
Okay, so we're here with Mr. Ian Pollard. Hi, Mr. Pollard.
Hi, good night. Good night to Tobago and the wider world looking on.
Okay, great. So we can see that you're definitely enjoying yourself, you know?
Of course. This is a celebration to enjoy. After a couple of years of closed down because of COVID, this is enjoy. It's really an enjoyable moment.
Okay, the Boys to Men is popular with you all era. My mom is really excited to see Boys to Men.
What age should I imply that I'm only 16 years old? Yeah, but it'd be a nice experience. Just kind of love song to come back so people could practice more love than hate, Instead of violence going on, instead of killing, murder going on. These are the kind of songs that you need. At least so people have the positive reinforcement.
Okay, viewers, so we're here with Pastor Terence Baines. Pastor Baines, can you tell us a little bit about your experience so far, the Tobago Jazz experience?
This is my first time actually experiencing the jazz event here in Tobago. We started on Thursday with a very powerful and successful installation. This as well is my first time coming to the Speyside edition of the thing, and it's very interesting. I don't have a reference point, but there's a lot of people here, so I think that one can consider that to be a success, So you all know me, you understand. This is not necessarily my forte, but I am here in support of my colleagues and so on, and it seems to be a successful event. And we hope that whatever we do in the next edition would be much more excellently done, much more productive, and I'm sure it will be much more impacting to the entire island of Tobago.
Okay, well, thank you so much for chatting with us, Pastor Baines. I hope that you continue to enjoy the experience and soak it all up. Okay, viewers, so we're here with the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Fali Augustine. Hi, Mr. Augustine, can you tell us how you're doing this evening?
I am doing well this evening, and of course we've seen quite a sizable crowd this evening. This used to be a free event, and we charged at least once before, the THA that is, and this year the grounds ticket was at $300, more than we've ever charged before for the venue, and we still have a very large crowd, a very large turnout today. And this follows on from an also impressive opening night on Thursday. And so we're just happy having all these people here in a safe environment, and of course, no place more beautiful than Speyside. And I home, and I get to sleep home as well, which is a good thing. So all is well.
Okay, can you talk to us a little bit about the THA's decision to play a lesser role in the Tobago Jazz experience moving forward?
I have concerns about the economics of all of this and how much we earn. We actually do not have any solid studies about the economic impact of the event. Yes, there are several industries that benefit. We talk about the service providers, the caterers, the people who cook and sell food, the bars, the transportation, those who do light stage songs and washrooms, portable washrooms and so on. So all of these services benefit from events of this magnitude. But we have to look at what the larger economic impact should be, and whether it makes sense, both with sense with an S and sense with a T, for the THA to 100% own and operate this, as opposed to the THA doing it as a public-private partnership, partnering with promoters. We have solid promoters on the island, people who do this kind of thing year-round, and it would be lovely for the THA to partner with them, for the THA to actually be in charge of the marketing, for example, especially the international marketing of the event, and have promoters take care of the lineup, the cast, and that we work together in pulling off an even more superior event. And so in so doing that, in doing it that way rather, we will be more likely to see a lot more profits on return for both the promoters and for Tobagonians at large. So it's not about ending the jazz totally, but it's about changing the model behind how we do it. And of course, we will have to have those discussions with the public. So we'll have the consultations. We will look at it. We will explore different options. So far, people have been coming forward with different ideas, different to the one I have posited. And so we welcome all the ideas so that very early, perhaps within a month or two, after the Tobago Jazz experience, we should be in a position as we are launching the Carnival for October, we should be in a position to also speak about the jazz for next year one time. So that's the direction we're going in, and it will work well on all fronts.
Okay, and that of course speaks to the decision to have persons pay to come to the Speyside Jazz, as you would have mentioned before, the economic benefits. In terms of marketing, because you would have seen in social media, persons were complaining about the marketing. They didn't think that the event was marketed enough or marketed well enough for that matter. Can you comment on that? I mean, starting from Thursday, we saw the turnout at the Gospel Night, the new addition to the Tobago Jazz experience. Last night at Buku, there was quite a number of persons, and also here tonight at the Speyside Jazz experience. So can you just comment on that?
So clearly the marketing worked because people are here in large numbers. So those saying that the marketing wasn't good clearly have missed the boat. But it's beyond marketing. Remember, Tobago has a challenge with getting airlift to the island, in particular the domestic route between Trinidad and Tobago. If we spent a lot more money marketing this, especially in the Trinidad market and the international market, and people can't get flights, then there will be no return on that dollar spent. So we have to do this event bearing in mind the limitations, the major one being airlift to the island, the number of flights available, and how many people we can possibly get to Tobago via the international flights, via the domestic route, by the plane, and via the inter-island ferry service. And with that in mind, that informed the levels of marketing we did for the event. Because if we had spent a lot more on marketing, we will not see that return on dollar, because people will want to come and can't come to the island. So before we talk marketing, what we need to talk really and truly is getting more flights for the island. And it cannot be Chief Sec Farley alone talking about the flights to come to the island. We have members of the cabinet who are Tobagonians, and the cabinet controls Caribbean Airlines and set the policies to Caribbean Airlines. Why are they not speaking up on our behalf and ensuring that we get solid numbers in terms of the flights connecting Trinidad to Tobago, and even the later flights? There are people who are willing to connect to the island via KLM that comes into Piako, but by the time KLM arrives, there are no flights in the night as we used to have, and so they can't make a connecting flight. All of these are part of the discussion that we have been having since we came into office, and I feel as though we are talking without anybody listening. But given those realities, the marketing and the spend on marketing had to be informed by that reality, or else we will be spending money that we can't get back. Discussions are being had, but we need to get support from the Tobagonians who are cabinet members that have direct control over the policies governing Caribbean Airlines.
Okay, and enough about the politics. Can you tell us how you're enjoying the Tobago Jazz experience so far from the Thursday night? And I saw you Thursday night at the Gospel Night, tonight, last night. How has your experience been so far?
Well, I totally enjoyed Gospel Night because, you know, that's my thing. I'm not really a fitter, so I am just taking this opportunity to mingle with friends. So many of my friends are here, and guess what? So many of my friends pay their own way here, so not free tickets. I make sure they pay their way here. I'm getting a chance to lime and hang out with all my fellow villagers and so on who are also out here. So I am just happy to be among my people. You know, I am always happy to be among my people. That is what this is about for me, being able to mingle with the people that love and support me, who are all here in the numbers this evening. As I said, the Gospel Night was phenomenal for me, and I look forward to what that particular art form will bring for the island of Tobago. As someone who was born in the 80s and raised in the 90s, I'm looking forward to sing along with Boys to Men. Right? I'm looking forward to that. Tonight, I'm the son of a Rasta man, and he's here somewhere in the crowd. So I'll probably skank a little to a Richie Spice, you know, because he has a good catalog that one can sing along to with positive music. So I am just going to enjoy what the offerings will be.
Okay, well, thank you so much for chatting with us this evening. I really do hope that you enjoy the rest of the proceedings. You're welcome. So we're here with Miss Alicia Edwards. Hi, Miss Edwards. Can you tell us how you're enjoying the Tobago Jazz experience so far?
I'm having a wonderful time. The energy is amazing. I've been going from general to VIP to general to VIP, and I just witnessed Super Blue and Ronnie McIntosh, and I love brass band music, so I'm having a wonderful time here this evening. I went to the gospel night. It was a different kind of event, but well put together by the Tobago Festivals Limited. The performances were wonderful. I didn't catch all of them, but it was wonderful, and I think it was a wonderful start to the jazz this year.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on the addition of the gospel night to the Tobago Jazz experience?
The thing about it is that music is universal, and there's a room for all genre of music, and I think that based on the response this year, it was an experiment. I think that based on the results this year, this experiment was a success, and it should be something that should be continued for future jazz festivals.
Okay, viewers, so we're here at the Tobago Jazz experience with
Collis Hazel, the Assistant Commissioner for Tobago.
Okay, Mr. Hazel, can you rate your experience for the Tobago Jazz experience so far? Is this your first event, or have you been to
Second event.
Okay, which event were you at previously?
I was at Speyside.
Okay, so that was yesterday. So you can talk a little bit about your experience yesterday as well as today.
So let me start off by saying that tonight is really epic. You know, it was a celebration in which I'm certain from the performances that we have here tonight, it is indeed a tremendous success. And of course, just the feelings, just the ambience, just the excitement, the enjoyment of the patron and the artists giving their true expressive feelings here, the music. I think we are on the right track with Tobago Jazz experience.
Okay, and do you want to comment a little bit about the THA having pulling back a little bit in terms of their responsibility with the Tobago Jazz experience? What do you think the experience probably may look like, or the event rather may look like in the future?
Well, I think what we need from is more corporate sponsorship coming into the Jazz Festival. Of course, it has been indeed a wonderful event. And certainly, you know, it's something that we want to look forward to. Corporate sponsors need to come on board. We just need a little more advertisements coming out of the jazz so that we can promote and bring other international patrons as well as artists, as well as the domestic tourists from Trinidad to join us here in Tobago and the other parts of the Caribbean. But certainly thumbs up to the organizers, and we look forward to that continued partnership, that continued success in making the jazz experience what it really is. It's an epic show.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Hazel. I can definitely agree with you. It most definitely is an epic show. So we're here with Miss Bonnet Bigford. Hi, how are you doing this evening?
Fine, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Okay, so is this your first event?
It is not. It's, well, 2012, 2019. This is my third time at Tobago Jazz, actually.
Okay, so can you make a comparison with your experience in the previous years to this year?
Well, I think this is the first time that I've had, no. In 2019, I did my own set as well. I think the experience is getting bigger. I mean, not without little things that we could tweak, but I think all in all, it's a growing brand.
Okay, and talk to me a little bit about the crowd response. How do you think the crowd responded to your performance?
They're very excited. Happy to be out because post-pandemic, we were not sure what was going to happen in 2020, so people are really excited now. And I think the energy is up. They're glad to exchange that energy with the artists on stage, and people just out here to have a really good time, you know.
Okay, and for you as an artist, how did the pandemic affect you? Coming out of the pandemic, are you getting a lot of bookings?
Well, I got bookings before the pandemic, and of course when the pandemic came, nobody got bookings because we could do nothing. So I mean, found ways and means to do different things during the pandemic, kind of take the brand out from where I actually have to have crowds. We kind of went into people's homes and whatnot, and now it's basically just to kind of get it going back now that the pandemic is kind of over, like we hope. Yeah. So.
And is there anything moving forward you think we could probably add or take away, any adjustments you can make to the Tobago Jazz experience for it to be a bit?
I will send them an email. I have a lot of suggestions, but I don't want to focus on the suggestions tonight. The energy is beautiful. We're here. We could talk about how we will improve it another time.
Okay, no problem. Okay, it was so nice chatting with you.
Yours, that was the Tobago Jazz 2023 highlights. Once again, I am Luke Trim, and it was a pleasure to host this morning's show. For those of you who joined us, those of you who will be watching the rerun, I just want to thank you all once again for choosing Tobago Updates to start your morning on the right note. So at this moment, we'll be heading over to Good Morning Tobago with Chanel Felix. So don't go anywhere yet, guys. Just remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. Thank you once again for joining, and we'll see you next week.
After over 6 decades of existence, the TWCU Credit Union has opened a branch in the sister isle Tobago. It was long in coming, but it has finally reached. This credit union was formed to accommodate and facilitate low-income families who needed a means of saving. Now, TWCU is expanding into Tobago. This milestone is being celebrated for bringing a 27th credit union to the island.
The establishment of this member-owned cooperative institution provided an opportunity for low-income members to save and obtain credit to meet their needs in an era when they were unable to have easy access to banks to meet financial needs.
For some time, due to the increase in membership and growth in status, there have been several requests from members. It is our hope that this new facility will serve as a catalyst to attract new members, particularly youth members. By the same token, it is an opportunity for members to invite relatives and friends to become members of the society. In addition, now is the time for inactive members to revive their membership status to be fully active.
Today, the fact that we are here within the first quarter of 2023 to open this branch is a very positive sign for the economy of Tobago at large. Tobago in and of itself has had a very long and beautiful and successful story with the credit union movement. Congratulations on this milestone. Congratulations on having this office as a forerunner to celebrating your 73rd year in business. That's quite a lot of years.
The TWCU Credit Union is located on the second floor in the Port Mall in Scarborough.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Do something, Johnny, do something.
Call fire.
What's the number? Oh, God.
Fan emergency, good afternoon. You said the building is on fire. Are there any persons trapped? 4 persons. What is the address of the call, ma'am? Number 4, Candy Drive, Pier Road. Can I have your name, please? Miss Bihari. Thank you, Miss Bihari. I'll be dispatching an appliance. Central Control from Fire Control.
Go ahead, Fire Control. Central Control is really over.
Central Control, have a plans and crew. Respond to our residential fire. Same is at number 4, Candy Drive, Pier Road, Chabonas. 4 persons are trapped, 2 adults, 2 children. They were unable to make contact with fire service, so she called on their behalf.
Transmission received loud and clear. Operator Central Control 3463, Farfighter Wiley, Central Controller.
Create an evacuation plan for you and your family and practice your escape. Always ensure you have more than one way to safely exit your home. Your lives may depend on it.
Stop!
service. Anybody in here? Fire service. Yeah, we're right here. We gotta get out. We're right here. Here, take him. Let's go.
Thank you for saving me. You're my hero.
Together, as we face the challenges during the new normal, always remember that fire safety begins with you.
How it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
We party till we drop down there, with a lot of pretty girls down there, down in Tobago. Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, you know when you see me sitting here, it's because we're about to have those conversations that you want to have to get your morning started and ask those questions that you want asked. Now, as you know, in the political front here in Tobago, a number of things have been unfolding, and the conversations continue to go on both nationally and locally in regards to how the political scene and environment is evolving here on the island of Tobago. And this morning, we're going to continue that conversation a bit, but we're going to diversify that conversation by speaking a lot about what's happening on the infrastructure front here on the island. And to have that conversation with me this morning, I have the privilege of sitting with Assemblyman Trevor James, who is the Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. Good morning, Mr. James.
Good morning, Chanel. Good morning, Tobago. Happy to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you here, we must say. This morning, you know, a lot has been happening. We're not necessarily going to address that only, but it has been a key topic. Everything that has been unfolding in terms of the conversation between the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary here on the island. You know, we could say that it kind of was prompted by the statement that the Prime Minister would have made, but then other persons may say, well, it was started even when the licensing officers decided to come to Tobago without having the requisite communication with the Division of Education. And from a number of those things that we've been seeing happening, this has really caused a strain on the relationship between the two islands. So I want to first ask you, in relation to that relationship between the THA and the central government at this time, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Sheena, just to go back to how you introduced this section, I think we in Tobago have to be clear in the language we use, because the language affects kids who are coming up and their perception and their interpretation of what Tobago is. We cannot refer to Tobago as the island and Trinidad as national. If a conversation is taking place in Trinidad, then the conversation taking place in Trinidad. A conversation that takes place in Trinidad is not national, and one that takes place in Tobago is not island.
Right.
So we have to find a way
right. But
to
for
use
a long
better
time,
terms
we have
express.
understood that the central government covers us nationally, while the THA covers Tobago locally. Is that not so?
That is a different way of putting it. But I'm saying when there's a conversation in Trinidad, because that's where the conversation is.
At the central government level?
No, at the government level. It is in Trinidad. There's a government in Tobago, whether people in Trinidad like it or not. The people in Tobago vote for an assembly to govern its relationship with Trinidad, to govern the issues in Tobago according to the 5th schedule, and we are in fact governing. The government in Trinidad governs Trinidad and governs Tobago only as it relates to 6th and 7th schedule. And we must be clear as to that. When we talk about, you never hear Trinidadian talking about on the island. And we have to adopt language that speaks to where we want to go. The Trinidadians say in the country.
Right.
And we say on the island, as if we are subordinate. And that's the relationship that has developed because of how the country has been run. Now, in terms of the relationship with Trinidad and Tobago, I think we have a good relationship. We have different political parties in Trinidad running the government in Trinidad, and we have a different political party in Tobago, and you are bound to have differences of opinions, and that's healthy. We're bound to have discussions, and that is healthy. The Constitution, the laws that govern the relationship speak to a consultative process, and we believe strongly that those in Trinidad and Port of Spain have not been consulting, and they take action unilaterally without the courtesy of even a telephone call. And we just will not stand for that. And I don't think the people of Tobago will want to vote for a representative that sits back and let a public servant in Trinidad come to Tobago and do whatever he wants. I don't think that's what the people vote for. I don't think the people will appreciate that. I think if you look at the comments generally, the majority of people are saying that that kind of behavior is not to be accepted.
Right. But we will get deeper into that entire conversation of the whole understanding the jurisdictions that the THA has here in Tobago. But before we get into that conversation, I want to speak a little on the City of Scarborough, which is one of your major projects that you have been working on. So where are we at in regards to that City of Scarborough project?
The master plan for the redevelopment of Scarborough, as you know, as the population knows, we came to the people in what we think is the biggest consultative process ever had in Trinidad and Tobago. And consequent to that, we went out through a consultant to develop a feasibility study to determine how we should go, where we should go with the project. I'm happy to report that the final report is in. The Executive Council is now reviewing the report, and it should be made public shortly, maybe early in the month of May. And then we again will go back out to the people to have another consultation, and again virtual, where the people will have a chance to see again and to contribute to the final designs as we move forward. We are underway. We have had expressed interest from major external financiers, and we think we are in a good place to start something grand in Tobago.
Right, and as you spoke about the position with financiers, talk to us a little bit about that, because we know that currently the THA is under a lot of financial strain, as has been expressed by the Chief Secretary in his discussions about the development budget and wanting to do a number of development projects on the island, but not having the sufficient financial resources to do so. So outside of the central government, what are some of the resources that you guys would be tapping into to get that job done?
Well, we are exploring different contractual arrangements to get the project done. We strongly believe, though, that the government in Trinidad should fund the project. The government in Trinidad has funded ports in LNG, ports in Mayaro, ports in, they're now doing a port in Toco, they sponsored a port in Labidco, port in Port of Spain, port in Point Lisas. They're building a road to Pigeon to Point 14 that's costing $6-7 billion. They have over the years together, just for the Ministry of Works, the budget for the Ministry of Works for the last 4 or 5 years is in excess of $10 billion. The budget for development in the Works Division is on average $75 million per year. And so the vast difference between how Trinidad has developed and how Tobago is developing is a consequence of budget. We've been at this dance for autonomy since I was a boy. And we have struggled to get this internal self-government, and every step of the way, those that take power in Trinidad continue to constrain us. They continue to give us 4.03%. They continue to take our resources. They continue to take our resources, Chanel, and give it back to us in chicken feed amounts. And we have been dilly-dallying and playing the fool over the years and saying that the budget is okay, the budget is not something we should quarrel about. But what the last Chief Secretary say, famously, this is not something we should argue about. You know, one time it is good, and he goes back and forth every year like that, accepting what it is that has prevented Tobago from developing. In this year's budget, there's no money on the allocation for the Division of Infrastructure for the road from Scarborough to Palatavia. No money. There's no money on the allocation for maintenance for the road from Scarborough to Charlottesville. That is where we are in Tobago, you know.
Right, and so you indicated that you strongly believe that this is the central government that should pay for the port. But based on the relationship now, what obligation do you think they have to do so?
The government in Trinidad, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, has an obligation to develop Trinidad and Tobago. The government has set about a development plan for Trinidad, and over the years, the Assembly in Tobago has set about a development plan for Tobago. Before we came into office, at least I can remember for the last 5-6 years, Mr. Jack has been going to Parliament with a budget of $5 billion. And every time they half it. We have been prevented from developing the island in order to foster this paternal condescension from Trinidad that says you must come to us and beg. We are participating in a country where we have no say for our resources. They can come anytime and take our oil and gas without consequence.
And recently they would have put forward a proposal to extend one of the jetties there at the Scarborough port. Is that so?
Well, that's another issue.
So how does that impact your overall plan for Scarborough? And what if they do that and say, well, that is our plan for developing Scarborough. We've invested X amount in doing this.
Now, we're going to put a stop to that. The law says that the THA is responsible now for 6 nautical miles from the high water mark. That's what the law says. That means that the seabed and everything in it between this high water mark and 6 nautical miles is the responsibility of the THA. And the EMA should not even consider an application from an entity for an area that they have no responsibility for. And so we would put a stop to that. I think Tobagonians have to understand the strategy out of Port of Spain. The strategy out of Port of Spain is that we will do everything in our power to ensure that this administration in Tobago does not deliver on its promises to the people, because that's the only argument they can have in 2-3 years when election comes around. How long have the government under Mr. Rowley has been in office since 2015? They had PNM in Tobago. There was no extension of any jetty project. How is it possible now? And so we have to find a way to come together to build not only institutions, but projects that will empower Tobagonians and that will create long-term sustainable employment in Tobago. We sit in Tobago and some of us complain that the THA is a major employer. There's a reason for that. There's no production taking place in Tobago.
Right, and in this situation where you would have highlighted that you feel as though the central government, their effort is to stymie the growth of this current administration.
That's always been so. Not only this administration, but that's always been so. I made a point about the budgetary request that last administration had. We requested 3.7 billion, which is way below what they have been requesting.
So you don't think an improvement in the relationship can do any good for Tobago in regards to that allocation?
I don't think that we have to, I don't think so, no. But we have to look at the history. We've had PNM in Trinidad, PNM in Tobago. And what we've had from the budget in Port of Spain is 4.03%. They have never given more than that. The law allows them to give 6.9. So the relationship, having both similar parties on both islands, has not worked in our favor.
Right. So are you saying that there's no...
It's impossible that it will work now.
There's no drive to improve that relationship between secretaries and ministers and the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary? There's no desire to improve that communication or that relationship at all?
Of course it's communication. We in terms of the licensing issue, I attempted to call the Minister of Works and Transportation 3 times without response. I've sent him WhatsApp message without response.
But you guys have that type of relationship where you communicate in that way?
Well, we don't.
Previously.
We don't have to have we have to understand.
No, but I'm asking, prior to this whole licensing situation, did you guys have that level of rapport happening?
No, he has never reached out to me.
Okay, but you reached out to him based on what was happening with the licensing
issue. If an issue arises, the issue arose with the stoppage of the bitumen on the boat.
Right.
I attempted to call. I spoke to the manager of the Inter-Island Ferry Company, and that's the relationship we have. We have to understand in Tobago that we don't have to be friends in order for us to have what we think are our normal
business
rights. We don't have to be friends. The friendship that existed between London and Rowley did not benefit Tobago in any way. The budget, which is our major problem, has always remained at 4.03. It has been sold like that. It has never benefited us.
But do you think that a number of these ministers are holding fast to the idea that they do not need to directly speak to a secretary, and that maybe correspondences should come directly from the office of the Chief Secretary?
Well, there is that possibility. I'm not in the mind of the minister. But there's always an attempt to subordinate offices in Tobago. And so for them and their strategy, their psychological strategy, one might want to believe that their preference is to speak to the Chief Secretary.
But the reason why I want to zone in on this relationship is because the city of Scarborough, that project is a huge undertaking. And as you rightfully said, because of the current financial relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, they should play a major role in financing that project. But if the relationship remains fractured, don't you think that would negatively impact the project being able to move forward in regards to EMA clearance and all those other things that are needed in order to have the success of the development of Scarborough?
We're gonna debate the EMA Act in the House tomorrow. But like I said, the relationship that we have is a governance relationship. It's governed by law and policies set out between Tobago and Trinidad by law in the Constitution. It does not require us to be friends. We go to the house in Tobago and we pass a budget in Tobago. We send that to Port of Spain, and the tradition has been that Port of Spain approves the budget and sends it to us. We make a case based on the resources that we have in our waters. We make a case that what we think we should get. Nobody in Tobago can argue that we've been getting a fair share from the budgetary allocation. In terms of building a relationship in order to get the government to give us some money to build the city, the government, through UDICOT, has approached the THA to build majority of the land structures in the master plan. They have submitted a proposal to the Chief Secretary in order to build out the lands part of the master plan. So they are listening, they are buying into it, and their strategy is to say, listen, we will build it for you. You will have no say in how it is built, but we will build it. They put a big proposal to do it. So it is not that they don't see the value of the project. It is trying to determine who will build it. And so they've put that proposal forward. So the project has been accepted as a good project, certainly in Tobago and definitely in the government in Trinidad. So it is decided now whether the government will finally live up to the internal self-government that we've been granted and be big enough to say, listen, we have to find a way to build Tobago, because a building in Tobago, building the economy in Tobago benefits the economy in Trinidad and Tobago.
Excellent. And we want to hold on to that thought right there. And we're going to take a quick break and we will return right after this, guys.
Passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor.
Sign up, save, and win every day with Digicel Plus. You could win a tablet or a TV every single day. Just sign up for Digicel Plus and like yourself. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store to sign up now. Promotion ends May 19th and is approved by the NLCB.
The best place to stay in Tobago is at Thorn's Place, with rates starting as low as 200 TT. Call or WhatsApp 745-7306 or 682-8676. We are located uptown Scarborough, 5 minutes away from the port. Remember, at Thorn's Place, our aim is to make your stay safe and affordable.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates.
May morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, if you're just joining, I am having a really interesting conversation with Assemblyman Trevor James here this morning, and we have been talking about a number of topics, but we started off talking a bit about those plans for the development of Scarborough and the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago. We spoke a little bit on how does that relationship affect the development of a number of projects that we want to see done here in Tobago. Specifically indicated was the fact that we still don't have a budget for that road from Scarborough to Palatuve, neither the one to maintain, neither a budget to maintain that Charlottesville to Scarborough route, which is necessary. But as we continue this conversation, we're going to get a little bit deeper into what's happening at the division, at DIQUD. So give us a bit of an update on, as a part of your strategic planning last year, there were a number of initiatives, a number of strategies that you wanted to implement to really help improve the division. Where are you guys on that?
Well, when we came into office, Chanel, we set about firstly trying to have an appreciation of the infrastructural needs across the island. We went on a massive island tour to each district to get the staff at the division to see what works were required to move the island and to bring some level of relief to people who've been suffering for years. And I think we out of that process, we've identified, I think, 200 plus projects which are required to assist the people of Tobago. We've decided as well that, we needed to execute more works in-house, and we needed to depend more on development teams, and we brought in a whole new management structure in order to facilitate that process. It's been a year plus, and that process is now beginning to take effect. The portfolio of projects we have put out for the last year and a piece is compared to previous administrations. I don't think the people of Tobago can see the difference between what the division is producing, has produced since we've came into office, as compared to previous years. So that's not in context. That's not a contest. We've started building roads, paving potholes from day one. We've targeted, in some essence, projects that attacks the psyche of the Tobagonian. I think sometimes the strategy is lost on people, but we wanted to find a way through the psychology of delivery to get Tobagonians to see that the quantum leap that's necessary to move Tobago forward has to be done now. We can no longer take 3 and 4 years to build a simple project. The road in the back here that was built in record time is an example of that. The project at Bay Hill in Moriah is another example of that. All the talk about that road, Tobago people don't fully appreciate what the hypocrisy of it. On the budget, under the PNM, that road was budgeted for close to $40 million. We built it for $20 million. They still complain. They still make a hullabaloo about it. Their budget for that road, minus the piece from here to Dutch Fort, was close to $40 million. We built it for half. Right. People still complain. So we have set out in the division to not only improve the systems in the division, but we've improved the delivery markedly. We've seen the staff at the Roxborough district deliver a wall in a week in Goodwood and in Glamorgan. Those things have not happened in the past. Our last project that we put out on Facebook in Campbellton and Charlottesville, again, we have, the staff have begun to buy in that we must deliver, and I am appreciative of the staff. I want to say kudos to all the staff across the various departments of the division, because we are finally seeing in Tobago a type of delivery that we have not been accustomed to. URP, just so much to mention.
Right.
You
And
know?
one of, as you mentioned, Charlottesville, one of the projects was to fix that Charlottesville entry road going down there, that winding bend road. Talk to us about that. Is that something that is going to be done this year, next year, within this first term?
That is a project that was given to UDCOT. There was a design to widen the road going down on the existing road. We felt that, you know, we felt that we should go around the Turpin House, come down the back, which is a view, strangely, that the Prime Minister also had. And we informed UDCOT of that. They have not yet come back to us in how we will go forward. I know they wrote some letters saying they will not do projects in Tobago anymore and that kind of stuff, barring 3 projects. But that's a discussion we would have. We would have hopefully for the next dry season, of to see how we're going to build that road and how we're going to pay UDCOT to build that road. But that is a project that is under UDCOT.
But they had already been granted the contract to do it.
Well, yes, as a consultant company, yes, they have been granted the contract to do it.
Okay. And so you're saying the conversation would take place within the next dry season, not necessarily
this year, but for the next dry season, yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Whether they will want to continue, you know.
But how does that work, seeing that the contract was already basically engaged? Is it that you...
Well, contracts can be terminated. There's always a process. There's always a process.
Open the tendering for it again.
There's always a process for these things. If there's a willingness by the UDCOT to execute the works, sure, this is a road that's needed. As you will know, the east and the northeast of Tobago has been left abandoned for many years, and any project in that area is a welcome project to bring relief to the people there.
And this was one of the things that was promised to the people of Charlottesville, that with this new administration, they could see relief coming in this particular area, especially with the entry to Charlottesville. Is this something that you think they would be able to see within your guys' first term in office?
Well, I don't want to make a promise I can't keep. Like I said, we have to look at the contractual arrangements with the UDCOT. We have to look at the budgetary allocation we have. We have to make a determination, because we are moving to projects based on the budget that we have. We have plans, we have projects in the pipeline, but we have to make choices, and then we would look at the economics of it and the benefit of it to the size of population, and we'll make a choice. Whether we'll do that this year, next year, as the case may be, I can't see, no, I haven't seen the analysis that would affect the choice if we had to spend that money up front as yet.
Okay, and as a part of your strategy and developing and establishing the division, you would have spoken about creating some new structures and systems. That has also been a part of shifting your organization chart as well.
Yes.
So have you been working closely with the MSU to change the structure of the division?
Absolutely. We discussed with the MSU. We went to the Executive Council. The structure has been approved. So now we are now seeing, like I said, we're now seeing the benefit of it. We've instituted the PMO, which should guide the project's initiation and the whole entire project process. We've seen the benefit of that. We've separated the engineering team to provide consultancy and design work for the projects, and I think we are now getting the benefit of the training of the engineers. We have a training program in CAD and Revit Civil 3D, earmarked, I think, to start on the 8th of May. So that will give additional support to the engineers and bring them up to speed, because we need the engineers to design for us, and I think in the past that has not been done, and we can't plan and deliver projects in-house if we don't have proper engineering designs.
And this is for all the engineers throughout the division, or just the civil engineers?
Throughout the division, all the engineers are earmarked to participate in this training program.
Okay, how long would the training be? It's here in Tobago?
Yes. It will be here in Tobago. We're still trying to source the money to do it,
okay.
But it's scheduled to start on the 8th of May.
What do you hope to achieve with this level of training outside of having them being able to design in-house?
Well, we have to invest in our staff. If we want our staff to perform at the highest level, as a country, we have to invest in our staff. We bring young engineers into the division. They've left school and they have little experience. And there is a need to plan a development chart for these engineers. It will only benefit the people of Tobago. And so we have to make that investment now. And we've decided that that's what we will do. And hopefully coming out of the training, we would see what other training is required and which other staff require training to bring them up to speed so that they can perform at the level that we wish for them to perform at. And these are things that should have been done already, you know. Remember, there's been no training for engineers as far as I can tell in the last 10 years. So, you know, we have to build a foundation for the division so we can spring off and build a road in 15, in 20, in 30 days.
I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was in sometime right before the pandemic where the division would have sent a couple engineers to China.
Yeah, but I don't know about that. What I remember is a chief secretary and a secretary for works going to China on invitation.
They sent a number of their engineers to China right before the pandemic. So I think there was some level of training taking place there. But as you indicated, you're looking to a new level of training or up to date. In what type of training are you thinking about when you think about a new level of training for these engineers that they currently don't possess based on the qualifications that they have?
Remember, what I've seen in the division is that the structure was that engineers go out and do, unfortunately, what I think to be work that could be done by a technician. So they identify an issue, do an estimate, and do a report. Now, we want engineers to do the design for a wall, for a road, to draw it. This is something new to the engineers because they have not been doing that. Mm-hmm. But that's what engineers do. And the design part of the engineering work is what we want to target on because we are using the PMO to do the project management work. And so we hope to get more of the expertise, more of the qualifications, the study of the engineer to come to bear on the processes and the projects that we would have.
Excellent. Before getting into office, one of the key sentiments with your administration was that the THA employed too many Tobagonians. However, your division has facilitated the employment of a number of Tobagonians since you have entered office. How many people do you know that your division has employed since you've gotten into office as the secretary?
Well, I don't have the figure of how many persons we've employed, but we have to understand the reality of where we are. Where we are is that we've come out of the pandemic. Tourism was down. The tourism sector is now building back. We've had limited or no agricultural production in any large way. We have no manufacturing in Tobago. The contractors who employ people depend on the state for projects and for payment to employ those people. So those people are essentially THA employees, if you think it through. And so the economy is flat, and we had to find a way to bring monies to the average person. They could take care of their expenses and themselves and so on, and without crashing the whole THA. This is not a problem that we've created. The unemployment problem, the lack of production, the lack of employment outside of the THA sector, is not a problem that we've created. We are doing our best now to see how we can alleviate it and plan for long-term development. That's why the only way we can do that is through big projects. We need to bring a different level of employment in Tobago. We need to bring more people into Tobago to build a services sector in Tobago. That's where the employment will come from. And therefore projects like the Scarborough Development Plan, what the Secretary of Tourism is trying to do in tourism, we need to put the foundation together. There's an expectation, I think, that we can fix all ills in a year. I think the population, maybe after seeing the road built in 20 days and the steps in a couple of months, remove it in a couple of months, that all the issues could be solved. The reality is, however, that we have a severe budgetary constraint. which means that, you know, to go back to basic economics of scarcity and choice. And a choice has to be made of which projects we would do when, unfortunately, and some will have to be executed at a later stage.
Right. But there has been a concern about the way that these individuals have been employed under the division, with a huge number of those persons being employed under short-term contractual agreements, which a number of persons see as being a means by which a number of people within the sector, maybe even some of your non-supporters, are left out or disadvantaged because of the employment mechanisms being utilized to employ new persons under the division. Can you speak on that?
Well, I don't know about percentages and what's large and what's small. The government has the legal right to short-term employment. It's not a new thing. We have to find a way to bring people on quickly. The short-term process allows for a period of evaluation to determine whether X individual can do the job or not. This is not a government trying to say we will bring on people who are not qualified and we will give them our work. That has not been what we have done at all. I mean, you could compare that with the amount of persons we have found in various positions across the THA who have zero qualifications and are being paid more than engineers in some places. You know, so that kind of hypocrisy is not what I'm here to talk about. The fact is that we've come into office, we've not gone on a mass firing as what happened in 2001 when the PNM took office. They've threatened nobody. Of course, some persons have been terminated through restructuring and all that, which is normal in a government. But yeah, short-term employment is a legal means of bringing on people, and I don't see the criticism for that at all.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're going to hold a bit here and we're going to come back and we're going to continue the conversation. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. See you right after this.
The energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong and the vibes is never wrong.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash in transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Our national borders, our first step to security, but a possible access point for guns, drugs, crime. If it does not look right, do the right thing. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously. 800-8477. Report possible border crime.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates.
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates, guys. If you're just joining us, then I know you definitely need to go back to the top of this conversation because I've been having some talks here with the Assemblyman Trevor James, who is also the Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. And we've been chatting about a number of things. But as we wind up this morning, we're talking about that licensing issue, which has been a big thing in the media recently when we saw a number of licensing officers coming up from Trinidad and what the Chief Secretary said, bombarding Tobagonians a bit there on the roads. Before we get into it, tell us a little bit about that situation from your perspective, and then we will talk a bit about the jurisdiction that the THA has over licensing in the 5th schedule of the THA Act.
Shana, this is a very vexatious issue for me personally. The Division of Infrastructure is responsible for licensing under the law. We pay the salaries of the Assistant Transport Commissioner in Tobago and all the staff. They report to the administrator of the Division of Infrastructure. Licensing and transport is under the 5th schedule. This is not like the police or one of those items under the 7th schedule that as national security is. And so the action of the licensed officers and the transport commissioner is illegal. They have come to Tobago without even a courtesy call, without even a discussion with the Division of Infrastructure, who is responsible for the road infrastructure, for the maintenance of the roads, for the management of traffic in Tobago. The division is responsible for that. They have come to Tobago, and by their action, in all this guava and dry season that we are in, they have taken out close to $1 million from the average man in Tobago, charging people for all kind of nonsense about windows not winding up and all kind of craziness that they have done. And I was forced to write about it, you know, because it's that kind of overreach that is similar to what Carlos John did by coming to Tobago and paving roads in Tobago back in the days when the UNC was in power in '95. That is the same overreach. It is as if once there is a different government in Tobago, the ministries and the ministers in Trinidad want to come to Tobago and do what they want. And we in Tobago have to stand up against that. When the Britain gave internal self-government to all these colonies, you know, Britain never came back and hid under a 75 clause and say, listen, this is one country, and therefore we could come and do what we want whenever. You've given up self-determination and internal self-government to Tobago. You need to respect that, and you need to do all and live in the spirit of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, and ensure that the Tobago government, the Tobago House of Assembly, is able to manage these things, not to step in as you see fit, based on some nothing data. You know, the premise for the data they use was that there was an increase in road deaths or something like that in Tobago by 300%, because there was 4 deaths for some period. 4 deaths. We can't count the infractions of road users in Trinidad as compared to Tobago. We can't even count it. The hurtful part is that the average man on the street lost close to $1 million in tickets in a week.
Right, and so for clarity for the people of Tobago, help us to understand how licensing officers here in Tobago are hired. Are they hired by the Service Commission in Trinidad, or are they hired under the Division of Infrastructure here in Tobago?
All public officers is essentially hired by the Service Commission. Under the law, the Chief Administrator has the authority to hire on behalf of the Service Commission. What has happened, there are 5 vacancies now on the establishment of licensing in Tobago. They've been vacant for years. Nobody has filled them. It is a failing of the THA in the past, and we hope to correct that. But notwithstanding, it cannot be that a public servant in Trinidad can bypass the entire government in Tobago and come to Tobago and do what they did. It is wrong, and we are looking to see how we could address it, because we believe that those tickets are illegal.
So, again, for clarity, no correspondences was received by the division or even the Assistant Transportation Commissioner here in Tobago in regards to the officers coming over?
I don't know if correspondence was received by the Assistant Commissioner in Tobago, because we had a resignation recently and we have a new officer which we have not yet been able to meet with. We have a new officer there and a new administrator at the division. The administrator has been doing his best to get up to speed, and we have just not had time to go down to license office. The officer came to Tobago and he has not reported to the administrator. I think the administrator has been looking for accommodation for him, which is one of the requirements as well, looking for accommodation and so on. And I think we are now paying the accommodation for Mr. Mohammed, who was retired but is on pre-retirement leave. So we're now paying for 2 officers, essentially. And the existing new commissioner, assistant commissioner, has not, as far as I'm aware, reported officially to the administrator of the division.
So he has not signed his assumption of duty here in Tobago as yet?
Well, I don't know if he has signed. I really don't know how that works. But as far as I'm aware, in my conversation with the administrator, that has not been done.
Right, and if a number of these positions here in Tobago are vacant and most of them are filled by Trinidadians, doesn't that provide a reasoning why the officers would have come from Trinidad to conduct the exercise?
No. A position being vacant in Tobago doesn't give an officer in Trinidad the right to come here and supposedly act in a position. This is not a free-for-all. You know, somebody in Tobago can't go to Trinidad and just say, there's a vacancy down here and there's this problem, I'm going to come and fix it, without even talking to anybody.
Right.
It just can't be done. So there are 5 positions, and it's a failing of the THA. Obviously, it's been years of that, but it has come to this point, and I think we will have a discussion, of course, as to see how we can fill those positions, because certainly, you know, we just cannot accept that. I don't think anybody in Tobago would want this administration to accept that.
Right, and although licensing falls under the 5th schedule and Tobago has the responsibility for that, has any policy regarding licensing and transportation that differs from the national policy been created here at the THA level?
Well, I don't even know if there needs to be a policy that differs from this so-called national policy. I don't know if that is necessary. We have a responsibility to manage this licensing authority. That's our responsibility.
So you don't think we need to create any new policy, just enforce what has already been implemented?
That will come after analysis. I'm saying if we have identified a problem, we have to work with what we have, assess what we have, and determine if new policies are necessary. We have how many inspection centers in Tobago? 1, Sylvester's alone. How is 1 inspection center going to service all of Tobago in a timely manner? It's a number of problems that would say to a commissioner in Trinidad, hey, I should stay out of this thing. Have a discussion at the very least. Have a discussion. Is it disrespectful in the highest order for them to have taken that action? And for them to have been able to use the police officers in Tobago. Again, another entity that has no reporting requirement to the THA. When I say in the past that you know you're under occupation, under colonialism, when your financial resources and your security infrastructure is managed by somebody else. That's where we are in Tobago. They come, they take our resources, they take our taxes, our oil, our gas. They want to take the quarry material, prevent us from getting a license through their system down there. They come up, they take the police, they do what they want. We have to come to the place in Tobago where we can't just accept that anymore.
How do we prevent these type of actions from happening?
Unfortunately, and this is my own personal view, unfortunately, the parliament has been used against Tobago, and we have to find a way to hold a referendum on this matter. I can't see another way.
What are your action steps that you're recommending to the Chief Secretary?
No, well, I have written the letter. I think the letter is clear. At the division, we will do our best to fill those positions now. We'd have to have a discussion with the Chief Administrator, obviously. We would meet with the Minister of Transport. At the same time, I've reached out to him. I just got a text from the administrator that the PS is asking for a meeting. So we will see how that goes. But we don't want this acrimony to exist. But if the government continues to overreach, then we will have a problem. The government in Trinidad has to bat within their crease, bat within the laws, and we could have a mutual respectful conversation. No politician in Trinidad is superior to politician in Tobago. We all go to the people and people vote for us. The people in Tobago expect that when they voted for us in this vast majority, that we will represent them manfully, and we want equity within the relationship.
Right.
And we will do our best to see how we could achieve that.
Excellent. And as we wrap up a bit here, do you think Tobago has enough licensing officers to enforce the policies that currently exist?
There are 5 vacancies on the establishment.
So don't you think that's the reason why they sorely need to
I don't see that at all.
come to Tobago to enforce the
They
policy?
can't do that. I don't know how much licensing officers are in San Fernando. Is it enough to cover all of San Fernando, all of the southern area, down to Icacas?
But what about the argument that there's no enforcement body here on the island of Tobago?
There's a license authority here.
Right.
How
But
you mean
in
there's no
terms of the
enforcement?
license, having sufficient human resources, licensing officers
That
to
is
enforce the
corrected
laws.
by a discussion.
Okay.
If the transport
That will
commissioner,
happen in the future.
the transport commissioner jumped out of himself and said, listen, I have made this analysis, and these positions are vacant, and we need to enforce this thing. You don't come as God in the big stick and take money from poor people. You don't do that. That's not how we run a government. You can't do that. We're talking of $1 million in guava season time. Men have to hide home with their car because they have no money to fix a wind down on their car. They can't come to work. I mean, we can't run a country like that.
Excellent. Guys, unfortunately, we have to wrap the conversation right here. I want to thank you so much, Mr. James, for coming on and having this discussion with us. But before you go, I'll give you the opportunity to make any of your final remarks if you want to do so.
I want to tell the people of Tobago that your government seems to be under attack, and time is coming and has come for us to stand together to build out in Tobago a government and a governance infrastructure that allows us to manage our affairs. We can no longer wait to get some solution from China. We have to do this thing ourselves. We have to find ways to bring external funds into Tobago if the government does not see it fit to give us our budgetary requests. And we have to build an independence through infrastructure, through commerce, through tourism, that we in Tobago can survive in this quagmire that is the democratic states of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, Mr. James, I really hope that we can further this discussion in the future, especially surrounding the whole topic of Tobago's autonomy and how we really build the capacity on the island here in order to attain that. But for now, our time is up, unfortunately. So, guys, that is all we have for you this morning. Thank you so much for making Tobago Updates the #1 broadcast station here on the island of Tobago. Again, I am Chanel Felix, and whenever you see me here, you know we're going to have those conversations. I'm going to ask those questions. So again, thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting, and just being engaged on the whole. Thank you for submitting all your comments online. I've seen them, and thank you again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and see you soon.